All right. Hello, everyone. It is Jessica, the world's most productive nurse practitioner. Happy to be here with you for office half hours. And recovering from some recent technical hiccups, so I'm excited to report that, but also just excited to be in that kind of back to school vibe that's happening right now. It's September, and for me it means like a focus on productivity and planning and all that sort of stuff. So this is for me like a great time of year. Hopefully it is for you as well. Speaking speaking of back to school and back to school like vibes and planning and all that sort of thing, I have had a thought that has been echoing around my head recently. And if I had to give it a headline, I would say, Did School Lie to Us? And you can think about that for yourself and about your own experience and whether what you signed up for versus what you got are comparable enough or if there's a major deviation. So when I say like the first thought that popped in my head was, did NP school lie to us? But it's really deeper than that, right? It kind of doesn't matter where you went to school. And I'm talking health professions, although this may, for all I know, be very applicable to other professions as well. But I speak from that through that lens of healthcare professions because that's my experience. But nursing school, PA school, veterinary school, dental school, PT school, any of this stuff, did we get what we signed up for? Now, I would guess that for probably at least 50% of the people who enrolled and eventually completed any of these programs, it was more intense than we thought, right? So okay, that's fair. When you are thinking about managing or restoring someone's health, then I want the programs to be rigorous for the people who do that, right? Regardless of whose health they're treating, whether it's my pet's health or my great aunt Susie's health or my health, right? Like I want them to have gone through a rigorous program. So that part is fair, completely fine. But I wonder, things like, did we know that we would have to deal on the flip side, right? Once we finish school with these like super lopsided staffing ratios? Did you sign up for that? Would you have signed up for that? I don't think so. Or managing all of the different personalities that we encounter in our like 9 to 5, whatever your 9 to 5 is. And that includes patients, sure, right? Because we're dealing with humans, most of us, right? Except like veterinarians. But we're dealing with humans, and that means everybody. So, okay, that is to be expected. And when you're dealing with patients, a lot of times you're dealing with families. So there are a lot of personalities that can come along with that. But what about colleagues? What about difficult colleagues? What about colleagues that aren't working maybe to the same level that you are for no obvious reason, and it's kind of holding you back and harming your productivity? What about admin and the different demands that you get from admin and the way that you have to navigate admin and the way you have to navigate differently, right? Depending who you are encountering. School didn't prepare us for that. How about, would we have signed up for this work, to work in this industry, if we knew that we were going to be pretty regularly as a profession put in harm's way? Having patients trying to physically harm us, assault us. Was that something that drew us to this profession? I would gather that probably no. In the majority, the overwhelming majority of cases, that is not something that we wanted out of this profession. Or patients that emotionally drain you. We can't avoid that entirely, but could we have better skills that help us to cope with that? Or if we had better staffing ratios, would that relieve some of the burden of working with these things? One of the biggest things I think of is say no. We aren't taught, we aren't encouraged, we aren't empowered and emboldened to say no to any of these things. We're not emboldened to say no to crazy staffing ratios or to patients who take a swing at us or to colleagues that are asking too much and not giving enough in return. We're not told to say no to that. We're told to stuff it down. to swallow it whole and somehow get through the day and continue to save lives, restore health, watch out for pitfalls or curveballs or landmines waiting in terms of people's health, right? We have to do all of that with a smile on our face, with our patient satisfaction results still very high, right? So we have to get good grades from the patients as well. We have to do all of that, but we're not allowed to say no ever. Would you have signed up if you knew that? If you are a student currently and you're hearing this, does it scare you? It should. It should absolutely scare you. I don't think it's that we can't say no. I think we can't say no because we feel like we can't say no. I think we can't say no because we don't know how. We might be in fear for our jobs if we were to say no. We might be in fear for our license or our profession if we were to say no, our livelihood. We might fear that there's a worse repercussion if we were to say no than to just tolerate whatever it is that we're not saying no to. But I think that that is not really helping us. And just in the same way that in a lot of cases, when we're dealing with patients, when we're working with patients, we're hesitant to just throw another medication, right? Like throw another medication at the patient, or to have them on a medication that's causing side effects, so then we have to prescribe something else to offset those side effects. Sometimes that's unavoidable, but sometimes it is avoidable, and we want to avoid that. We want to navigate around that. I think the same can be true for saying no. But I think that we feel like the only thing that we can do is to let the pile on continue instead of saying, no, this stops now. I cannot tolerate this. I cannot allow this to continue. And I think that part of that is that workplaces probably benefit from us taking on more and not drawing the line and not saying no. And I think that we aren't trained. We're trained how to administer chest compressions, and we are trained on everybody has to have BLS at least certification, right? So you could do chest compressions, you can monitor an airway for an unresponsive patient that you happen upon or that you are is assigned to you. You can do those things, but you can't say no. Not that you. I'm not saying you should say no to an unresponsive patient, but I'm saying that these very basic skills, basic BLS, basic life support, is everybody that works in any kind of clinical setting has to have that certification, and that's appropriate, right? Sure, okay. But why not also be required to know how to stand up for what's right, even if that means standing up for yourself? We're not trained to do that, okay? And we're not encouraged to do that. And I think that if we stop settling for that, we can make some pretty big change in healthcare, but we have to do it. We've waited for the system to fix itself, and that's not happening. Not in our careers anyway, right? So we need to be that change. We need to be the driver of that change, and we need to find those places where we can say no and where we can draw that line for ourselves, for our practice, for our emotional safety, for our physical safety in the workplace, so that what we signed up for in the clinical world, what we signed up for when we went back to school and when we took these jobs and we passed our boards and we got our license and all this stuff, everything that we were agreeing to, so that that matches roughly, more often than not, what we experience in the 9 to 5. We need to make those adjustments because those adjustments are not being made for us. No one is coming to save us. We have to save ourselves. Okay. But if you have not been taught how to do that, you can't just you're not going to just parade into work tomorrow and be like, no. And that is not going to work. That's not sustainable. So we need to have some strategies and some training and some actual approach and some learning and some practice. So that is something that I am offering You can check in the link below for current versions of the live workshop that I'm going to be doing that is going to be helping you to understand what you actually want from your 9 to 5, so to speak, and how to get it. Sometimes it's saying yes, and sometimes it's saying no, right? So let's figure that out. Let's work together, and let's do what we can. If we each make it a little bit better for ourselves, that collectively is better for everybody. Have you heard the phrase, the rising tide lifts all boats, right? And when you make a change, I've seen this happen so much with my clients, and it gives me goosebumps even to think about it with my coaching clients. When they start to really get that backbone really, really straight, and when they stop tolerating these things that they should not be required to tolerate, it inspires a chain reaction for the people around them. And they become leaders, unofficial leaders in the workplace, and they inspire change. And the change that they inspire is positive change, because it is the change that we need, not the change that the system needs, not the change that the payers need, not the change that admin needs, the change that we need. So click the link, join me. Do something about this, right? Complaining is nice, venting is nice, but it's not constructive, and it's not going to change anything. It's just going to help you get through the day, and then tomorrow you have to do it again to get through another of the same day, right? And is that what you signed up for? I don't think so. Question time. Okay, so this week's question here on Office Half Hours is I feel like I say this every time. I love this question, but I do. I love all these questions. So the NP writes in that her current practice, the volume of patients, the volume of the practice is overwhelming, and they keep asking me for more. Shocker. Should I look for something else? I am burned out, and I'm only 1 year in to being an NP. Well, should you look for something else? Well, I think that the knee-jerk reaction is yeah, right? So this is bad. This is on fire. I should therefore run away. Okay. And that could work. That could solve all of your problems. And wouldn't that be great, right? Wouldn't it be great if just the perfect job was just right around the corner? All you had to do is beat the bushes a little bit, look on, the job searching websites and update your resume and CV, or talk to friends and get a referral to who's hiring and all this sort of thing. And then go change jobs, get credentialed, wait 3 months for that to happen, and everything is magically going to fall into place. That would be great. That is not realistic. For so many reasons, right? It's not realistic. First of all, there are a lot of openings in many cases. There are some areas that are saturated with NPs, and maybe the hiring landscape is a little bit different, but in general, right, there are a lot of openings, especially if you're willing to relocate, you're willing to travel, those sorts of things. There are a lot of openings. Why is that? Right? That's the first question. And how will you know? If you change jobs, you will know for sure that you are getting away from a pretty toxic situation. But how will you know that where you're going is not equally toxic or worse, right? If you knew things were going to be this intense where you are now, you wouldn't have accepted this job, right? So somehow you were able to commit to this job and to this position because you thought it would be, at least reasonable, tolerable. And you found out that something much different was the case. So my advice actually in a situation like this is, first of all, I congratulate you, dear NP writer. I applaud you for recognizing that this is messed up, right? That this is broken and that this isn't serving you. That's a pretty terrible feeling, to feel burnt out after a year into practice, after everything that you've been through to get to this point, to then feel burnt out. That's awful, right? So I am so proud that you have recognized that this isn't working and that something needs to change. The guidance, the gentle guidance that I would love to give you is that instead of looking externally for the solutions, what about looking internally? What about looking at before you decide to jump ship? Because I'm not saying that jumping ship isn't the right choice. but I don't think it's your next move. I think what you need to do is you need to look within, and you need to look at what led you to this place of feeling burnt out, what you could have done differently, what you will do differently moving forward. What do you need? What is your work life vision? To kind of flip it back to the first half of what we talked about today, what did you think you were signing up for? Right? Like, what attracted you to this position? And how can we look at those things and pull forward more of those positive things or those attractive things, and push further away the things that are not attractive, that are repulsive, right? And doing that internal work, looking at your mindset, looking at the things that led to your burnout, using that to build out a framework that is going to help you understand yourself, how you work, what you need in a workplace. Because for some people, this might be just the perfect fit, right? Because their needs are different. But to look and see what you thought you were getting, what you really want, how you got here, and build out that framework so that when you make your next move, whether it is to ask for some changes to be made to your current position or to the expectations, never holding our breath, but always hopeful. Whether that may be the next move, or whether the next move may be to look for another position within your healthcare system, or to cut back to part-time, or to look somewhere else entirely. If you do that, it's a shot in the dark, right? Unless you do this internal work. So I really, really encourage looking at what your needs are. Again, this is not something that we're taught. And that's why this question could be written by almost any of you. It could have been written by me a few years ago, right? Because this isn't something that we are taught in school. We are taught how to diagnose, we are taught how to treat, we are taught maybe how to refer the pathophysiology of a disease, we are taught the pharmacology, that you know, to understand the relative pharmacology and how to treat this, that, and the other, and how to put the pieces together. Those things we're taught. We are taught elements of research and scholarly inquiry. All great. But the professional development, the you at work, oh, you're on your own for that, right? And so that's why people come to people like me, right? To coaches who coach other nurse practitioners, or they talk to their maybe like former classmates or other colleagues, and who also maybe have never really had time to figure this out for themselves either, right? And maybe very much in the same boat. There are not a lot of resources out there, unfortunately. We need more for sure, but we definitely need to do what we can to look at ourselves, to be a little selfish, if you want to call it that. I don't think it's selfish, but some people might say that. But to look within and to really understand ourselves, and to understand how we work, not just why we work or where we work, but how we work, and maximize the things about it that work for us. Because when we do that, we selfishly, right, for ourselves subjectively, we improve our satisfaction in the workplace. And when we've improved our satisfaction in the workplace, our career longevity is better. We can make it across the finish line to retirement, which might not happen if we don't do these things. So when we do all those things, we make it better for ourselves. When we make it better for ourselves, it is better for our patients. If you have ever, I mean, we've all been patients ourselves. If you have ever had the experience of being a patient of a provider of any sort who is not happy, you feel it. You feel it. If you are a patient who is not part of the healthcare professions, you might just get a vibe. But for us as insiders, we can tell, right? So when we are happy, we stay in our careers longer. It's better for companies that we work for, our clinics that we work for, because they don't want to deal with turnover, right? You know, they don't, hiring and training and credentialing and all of that stuff, and reassigning patients, all of that stuff is a major, major drain for them, right? So it's much better for them if they can keep you. Why they don't seem to do more for that, I don't know. I can't answer that. I don't know. We can all guess, right? But we don't know the answers. But it's better for your company when you are engaged and happy. So that's better for everybody, right? So you're going to make better decisions about the places where you are willing to spend 40 plus hours a week. You are going to be happier there. You're going to have the longevity in the position as well as in your career in ways that you're not if you're not satisfied. Your patients will benefit, your home life will benefit, right? Your home, your social life, whatever other things that you have going on in life when you are not an NP, all of those things will benefit when you get this stuff nailed down. And then it benefits your employer as well, whether you work for like a tiny one person and one secretary office or you work for some major healthcare system, it is going to benefit them as well, right? If they can have the continuity with their staff, it's better for them. So I encourage you to think about your needs. Put yourself first. Then feed that information into your current situation. Look for opportunities to maybe shift some levers and make improvements that are going to make your day better, right? Feeling overwhelmed, patient volume. Could you see less patients? Could you have more admin time? Could you work part time for a period of time? There are a lot of small changes that could be made. Could you have less complex patients? Could you have less new patients? So you're seeing more people that are follow up visits, starting from scratch every time. All those things can make your day to day better. And if they don't, then you know what you need. And then you can do a better job of looking for what you need, right? In your next position instead of just a shot in the dark, which may be what got you in this position, right? No judgment, right? It's all support. It's all meant to make things better for you because when it's better for you, it's better for the patients, it's better for our employers, all of those things, right? So that's my goal. I want to make the work life a better place to live, right? Let's start with yours. And that's going to take us to the end of our time for this week. So check out in the comments below to see if I have a current live workshop. I probably do, but to look and see if I have a current live workshop that is going to help you to figure this stuff out, because we can't just figure it out on our own. Oh, who has time for that, right? So let's talk about it. Let's have some guided stuff that's going to help you to understand what you need and how to get it. All right, until next time.